and you have to talk to other people, and people tell you a problem. Sometimes you might have trouble following the argument, especially when it's more complex. So if you were selling hot dogs in Costco, it wouldn't be so difficult. But if you were a lawyer trying to write a letter, it may not be so easy. So this is the kind of thing that affects the higher functioning to begin with you are, the more affected you are by this kind of problem. And then you also lose strength because the muscle mass has become less during treatment. And then of course taste and choice of food intake is affected because chemo affected the taste buds. Okay, but many of these things will recover.
Yeah， 那这些第一个讲到说这个造成劳累的理由呢，就是因为是功能上面的损失哈，有些因为经过化疗了之后，你的手指头会麻麻的感觉，如果说你弹钢琴的话，你就会感觉不到，就是带听走了，弹钢琴会影响到，可是数钱没有问题哈。那另外的话就是说你持久，比如说你做一件事情做持久的话，你没有那个力气继续一直做下去，持久的做下去。那讲到就是说，注意力会比较不集中。如果说您以前是个律师的话，你要从写信从头写到尾的话，或者是有人在讨论一件事情，如果这讨论的事情稍微复杂了一点的话，你可能没有办法跟随说，哎，他刚刚为什么讲这个问题，就没有办法理解下去了。那通常的这个你的会觉得没有力气，那是因为你的那个肌肉没有了，所以才会造成说你没有力气。那同时你这个也会影响到你的味觉啊，也会影响到说你对吃东西的喜好。可是这些这个功能上的损失慢慢都会恢复。
Yeah, all this is really from the drugs and the treatment itself. So when they're over, you recover. Now, we give you an example of radiation. If you have radiation to your chest, lung, let's say you do it for 4 weeks. The side effects really doesn't begin until the 2nd or 3rd week. But it lasts a total of 4 weeks, equal to the time of the radiation. So those are where the major side effects are.
对啊，那因为这些东西都是跟药有关系的，尤其你在做放疗或者化疗的时候，那些副作用大概到1-2个礼拜之后才会发现，可是出现了之后会一直持续到你这个化疗整个治疗的时间结束的时候，那个副作用都会在。
For chemotherapy, sometimes you go up and down. Right after chemo, you're very tired for maybe a week. And then you get a little bit better, and then a couple of weeks later you get treated again. So it's up and down, okay? When you stop, it takes about another month or 2 to come back to being normal, so to speak.
对啊，所以化疗的时间大概就是起起伏伏的哈。那你做完化疗的时候，大概要再等1个月的时间，你看看才能恢复。
And then the taste buds will come back because your body make new ones. So the ones you destroy from the chemo, you make new ones, so you can taste again. So if you like to drink wine, don't waste your wine when you're getting chemo. Save it for after treatment, okay? Especially, you drink a cheap wine during chemo. Okay, a lot of this actually, it turned out, it's not just the chemo, it's hormones. And we'll talk about that as we go throughout the day. The treatment affects your hormone level in your blood. It affects the way your body regulates hormone levels. So you and your wife don't look alike because you have different sex hormones. And if you get treated, a lot of times the male hormone drops. That's why you're no longer interested in sex. You get tired easily, you lose muscle mass. All these things can be long-term too. And when the long-term is probably more hormone. We know that from the women, the tremendous impact. You know, they also have loss of sex drive. They also have loss of interest, and loss of concentration. Turns out is really a loss of estrogen, because hormone therapy and chemotherapy both cause the exact same problem. So it's not just chemo. Okay, the other problem is depression and anxiety. Now this is more complicated because this is not directly related to the drugs or treatment. There's lots of interest, lots of pleasure. People who love to eat no longer want to go eat. I mean that's very unusual, but that does happen. People like to play golf, and all of a sudden they don't want to go and play golf anymore. Some people like to play mahjong, and suddenly they don't play anymore. So it's not. And why is that? Part of the anxiety, worry about the future, worry about the cancer coming back, worry about how you're going to work, worry about a lot of things. Okay, so that's a loss of pleasure thing. Loss of sleep. A lot of time people fall asleep, but then they wake up early in the morning. Like you fall asleep at 11, but you wake up by 2, and then you cannot sleep again. So the loss of sleep affects people how they feel. Loss of sleep is a big problem, and that's for men and women. And then because loss of concentration. Now this is probably a hormone effect, but then you really have a tough time reading a book. So even those people who love to read, you find it hard. You read a book, a page, and then you don't remember what the page says. Or if you try to follow something a little more complicated, it's hard to do. So, and then lastly, you lost hope for a better life. If you do this for a while, if you're depressed for a long time, you start to have no hope. I mean, there's nothing to look forward to.
But we have new hope.
That's why I'm here. That's why we're here. Actually, I used to try to play with the name of the organization called Life Hope, but that's too depressing. New Hope is better. Okay, bye.
我这一部分没有问题吧？没有问题的话，我就让大家待着下去。
Okay, next slide. Okay, now fatigue led to loss of quality of life. So we mentioned the couch potato effect. So this is something you really need to fight, because this happens to every patient almost. People who used to run marathons suddenly don't even want to go out running anymore. Okay, if you know people who run marathons, they're pretty intense. They're really into running. But yet, so is it brain chemistry that makes them no longer responsive to the stimulus of running, or they just don't even want to do it? A lot of breast cancer patients stay and watch TV all day, even though they feel fine, they're physically okay. A lot of men have colon cancer. Did the surgery, everything is okay now, but yet they just don't want to do anything. They want to do surf the net. To me, that's not an activity. Okay. The other problem too is this leads to loss of social interaction. So you don't go out with friends anymore. You become more isolated. You don't want friends to visit you either, because then you have to kind of dress better and have to talk to people. And it drives everybody crazy. The men drive the women crazy, the women drive the men crazy. There's nothing worse than somebody who's retired and nothing to do. And it's a similar phenomenon, because now you have no focus. And that's why, what we do here in New Hope is trying to provide some avenues that people can find interest in something. The lack of the ability to concentrate is a big problem, because you sometimes cannot work because of that. And you cannot share things with other people. You cannot learn new things. God help you got a new cell phone and trying to learn all the features. And then you just lost interest in life altogether. So this is some of it's behavior. Some people have a very negative outlook on life, and when you have cancer, it reinforces that. Oh my God, I'm going to die, so might as well just check out. Unfortunately, you won't die, and so you're going to have to live with this. So you have to make a decision for yourself how you want to live the rest of your life. You might have 1 year, you may have 20 years, I don't know. Sometimes, it surprises me. I just had a patient with lung cancer 8 years ago. She was fine the whole time, and now she relapsed. So, but she said, I still feel okay. So I said, well, we're going to try to keep you alive for another 8 years if we can. But she's, she take cruises, she volunteer work, she do dance classes and so on. So she just has a life. So in other words, you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes people say lung cancer everybody dies in 2 years. That's not true. Many people live a long, long time. And this is why I talk about our hormones probably play a big role in this kind of problem too. That's why a lot of older folks, even without cancer, have almost the exact same problem. And you think a lot of the problem is not the cancer, it's the hormones. So the question is, can you replace it? Yes or no? You can replace hormone in men, but it's a little dangerous, because if you give male hormones to men, it's like putting your car into first gear and step on the gas. So it's not very good for the car. So that's the reason why we haven't been doing that routinely. Replacing estrogen in women seems to be a little better tolerated, but then the concern is whether that will cause more breast cancer. So that's the problem. But it's not entirely clear whether estrogen alone would cause more cancer. It takes more than that. Okay, next slide. So we encourage you to do some exercise. This is just an example about for men. Weight training is important, because if you do something to do, something you can do, and something that is manly, it's not like we've been doing crafts. Men like to do physical things. That's what we find in our men's support group. Men want to do action. They don't want to hear. They don't want to listen. So I try to keep talking to a minimum. They like to do things. Okay. They like to play drums. They like to go on hikes. They like to play mahjong. They like to do all sorts of things, but they have to be active. We don't, in fact, the whole idea of our survivorship programs is increase activity. Get people out of the house, get you to do things. And we also find it's easier to do it with as a group. If you're just by yourself, it's hard to go running. I hate running by myself. But if I have someone to run with, it's much more fun. Okay? And so these are just examples of what you can do. You go to the gym. You know, you're not going to be, you could be competing for the Olympics, so you don't have to be, you get the strength higher, but it's important that you use weight training as a way to do a routine, so you can go out every day to do some activity, and also it allows you to get stronger. Next slide. Now, from the women, we learn a lot. These are the kind of things that people like to do. Walking is number one. Sports, any kind of sports. Golf, tennis, swimming, weight training, we talk about that. Bicycling. Part of bicycling is that it takes skill. And some people are not good at riding bicycle. And of course, if you have a lot of neuropathy, that might not be your best option. Gardening, some people like that. I don't like that. Exercise classes, we talk about that. In terms of exercise classes, the problem is, unless it's specially designed for cancer patients, sometimes it's too much, because they go faster and faster. But what we would try to do is to try to get our exercise people to work with you, but bring you along gradually. So we even design exercise for people in wheelchairs. Okay, we help them do what they can do. You don't want them to, they're not athletes. They were never athletes to begin with. But the important thing is that they do the activity. Dancing is good, but it takes two. And not everybody's a good dancer. I step on my wife's toes all the time. And then yoga, those are a little harder to do. Okay, next slide. Okay, depression. This is a very difficult. Anybody who has a difficult experience, a major car crash, a major accident, you lost a leg, or oftentimes, however, there's also a background of anxiety to begin with. Many people are very anxious in life. I mean, I meet many people in this valley, and this area is tense. People are worried about a lot of things. You know, they worry about finances, they worry about career, they worry about the kids, they worry about everything. Problem is that many things you worry you can't change. So worrying doesn't help. It's easy to say, but difficult to accomplish. Chinese people have we like to worry. I don't know why. But now, problem is if you keep being anxious all the time, then you can become more depressed because you say it's hopeless. You wish you could take a vacation from life, go somewhere, disappear for a month, and then come back. You probably feel a lot better because you're not in the same area. The problem becomes much more easy to solve because you now have more energy and you have more, you see more possibilities. Okay, so the key is to get rid of this sense of hopelessness, sense of futility, and it could be also worsened by a stressful experience. Let's say somebody had a side effect from treatment, and that's a setback, but it really can cause major issues. What can you do about depression? Well, number one is you got to talk to people. You got to share with your loved ones, share with your friends. This is where your friends become your friends. It's very important to have someone listen to what your problems are, because by telling other people your problem, you spread out the stress. Now, other people really don't feel much, but they don't have to say anything. It's important that someone listens to you. And the other thing is that sometimes you need medication, and that helps because I think it's about brain chemistry also. Depression is caused by loss of certain neurotransmitters in the brain, and that's why your brain is slower, and your emotions are damp, so things don't you become numb. Okay, next slide. So it feels like Darth Vader is talking to you. That's what depression is. Do not underestimate the power of the dark side. If that's true, the dark side is depression. It can cause a lot of problems. Next slide. So we look at all the causes of fatigue. Number one, are you anemic? You may need a higher blood count. You may need more iron and vitamins. So you need to eat well. Number two, pain. Chronic pain is a big problem. It is because pain requires different treatment. Depends on what it is. You may need pain medication. You may need nerve blocks, and also teaching people how to perceive pain. Because what is pain is really a signal in your brain that tells you have pain. So you can actually, with meditation and with understanding it, learn how to live with it. Okay. So, and then finally, you use medication. So, there are the things like antidepressants, like opioids, we use a lot. Anti-inflammation, like ginseng, is good. Ginger, steroid. L-carnitine has been used. That's a dietary supplement. Hormone substitute, sometimes. People have tried that. It remains to be seen which one is good. Next slide. So this is an example. There are many activities, but you notice that you're doing it with people, and you're doing it, in a relaxed atmosphere. You're not trying to win a race. You just want to run a race. Okay, it's very important. You want to dance. You're not going to go to dance competition. It's fun to dance. Okay, next slide. In clinical trials, we actually study this, believe it or not. Some people explain the following benefit. When they do exercise, the more they do, the more physical energy they get. So it actually gets easier. The appetite improves. They're able to do more normal activities. Better quality of life, more satisfaction with life, and a greater sense of feeling good, and more able to meet the demands of cancer and cancer treatment. So exercise gives you, it's like, you develop a tolerance to all the problems that cancer brings. So it's your way of fighting back. So you can live life in one of two ways. You can let things happen to you, or you can be the one who makes things happen. Okay? So I tell my patients jokingly, I say, think like a vampire. In the vampire movie, do you want to be one to do the biting, or the one who gets bit? So I think I like to be the one who do the biting. It's more fun. Okay, next slide. So like this is another example. Like people in wheelchair. We now know that no matter how much disability you have, there's always something you can do. So it's up here, not down here. So we teach people, even in wheelchair, how to do Tai Chi, how to do weightlifting. You do what they can do. If they can run, then let them run. But it's important that you don't let cancer overwhelm you or dictate your life. You dictate your life. Okay, it's very important to do that because next slide. Fatigue exercise. What you do is you need to have a routine. So if you have a group, it's much easier to have a routine. But if you don't have a group, at least make a routine. So first thing you do after breakfast, go walk or do something. Okay, don't stay at home. Participate in group exercise is the best. It promotes social interaction as well as physical stamina. Because as a group, you don't want to let down the other group. You don't want to look bad in front of other people. That's why you're willing to do more. By yourself, you get tired and you give up. That's why having a group helps. And it's important to do something that you like. It could be anything. But in New Hope, what we're trying to do is provide these classes so you can get to meet other people who are in the same situation as you are, but also you can do this together. Like, Qigong, Tai Chi, dancing, we're going to try to get that going. I think the men's group, the first thing we're going to do is probably organize some sort of a walking group. And I think that'd be something that'd be fun to do. Photography, calligraphy, cooking even. The cooking class is the most popular of all our activities. I think we all like to eat. Next slide. So this is a picture of a guy doing Tai Chi and someone doing exercise in the gym. So and notice a lot of these pictures are real. These are real people. These are real cancer survivors. Next slide. Okay, now we switch gear a little bit and talk about more specific things. So colon cancer. Okay, colon cancer it affects your GI function. So, after surgery, even if you don't have a colostomy, sometimes people get diarrhea, constipation. The key to deal with this stuff is learn how to live with it. You learn how to adjust. You need laxatives, or you need something to control diarrhea, just so that you can function. Upper GI, sometimes people have reflux after surgery, or sometimes they eat something and they have to go to the bathroom right away. Now you will find out, that some food causes that more than others, because usually when you eat something in the stomach, it sits in there for 2 hours. But if your stomach is smaller, then it gets dumped into the small intestine a lot sooner. And then because it's not as well digested, it causes more fluid to accumulate in the small intestine, and then you flush through. And so a lot of people sometimes after eating have diarrhea within 15-20 minutes, which normally doesn't happen. But that's a real physiological problem. In prostate cancer, there's a lot more problem with urination. In men, that's a big problem. Men, they have problem with hesitancy means you sit in the toilet, you cannot pee. or it takes a long time. And some of that has to do with the tone of the bladder. See, the bladder is a stupid organ. It expands and then stretches, and you want to go pee. But if the nerve damage is there, then it doesn't feel that anymore. So the bladder gets a lot bigger. Sometimes there's narrowing of the passageway to go out the bladder. So what happens, it takes longer for you to pee out. And urgency means you have to go, but you couldn't, but you have to go all the time. So it's also sometimes because the bladder is what they call spastic. That means like, like this. So any little urine in there, it feels like it has to go. So that's not good either. Incontinence, you have lots of control. So sometimes people even need to have self-catheterization because they cannot control the urine. And associated with that is also the sexual issues. They feel impotent, they can no longer have erection. And then the loss of libido then lead to less of sex drive. So these are really important things that prostate cancer patients are afraid of. Now, a lot of prostate cancer guys are old. Now, 70, 80 years old, you think that they're not sexually active, many of them still are. And it's a big issue for them. That's why many of the prostate cancer patients get depressed because they cannot have sex. And the drugs we give them shut down their testosterone even more. So that's why they're not happy. So a lot of unhappy prostate cancer patients because of that. Head and neck cancer patients is difficulty of swallowing. It's a big problem. After radiation to the head and neck area, a lot of times it's very dry. So it's hard to eat normal foods. You'll hear about that from our next speaker about how to deal with some of that. Lots of taste is a problem as well, but usually they can come and go, and that's adjustable. Okay. And lung, when you have lung surgery, sometimes it affects the capacity of the lung. So you can't run upstairs. You can walk flat on the ground, no problem. But going up and downstairs will be a problem. But that's okay. So you try not to do that. You don't have to. And then sometimes you get chest wall pain after surgery, but that's more on the surface of the chest. Next slide. Okay. So colostomy really affects the change in lifestyle, but it's a matter up here. Okay. GI function is caused by shortening distance of the bowel, delay emptying, less of ability to absorb. That's why you get diarrhea sometimes. Smaller stomach, smaller colon cancer, so that you cannot hold the stool. Because the colon cancer is like a holding tank. You cut that out, you no longer can hold it. You have to go off more often. Weakened sphincter tone, that's a problem, so you cannot control. But for every one of these problems, there are ways to deal with it. Okay, the doctors who do the surgery and stuff like that know how to get you to do rehab and do some of the problems. So all these problems are controllable. They're not, you cannot eliminate them, but you learn how to live with them. Next slide. Okay, prostate cancer. We talked a little bit about urination already. Small bladder or full bladder is so emptying, partial obstruction due to nerve damage or the cancer itself. Loss of control, again, mainly is nerve damage and loss of the bladder tone, and impotent, loss of erection, many, again, kind of complicated, it's psychological as well as physical. And loss of sex hormones, removal of testicles sometimes, or the treatment destroy the testicles, or destroy the testosterone production, so that's impaired function. Next slide. Okay, so we talked a little bit about head and neck cancer, just repeat, loss of taste, loss of appetite, dry mouth, difficulty swallowing sometimes because food gets stuck. And so this is a serious problem if it happens. But again, there are ways to deal with that. Next slide. Lung, limited exercise capacity. Sometimes when you cut out the lung part of it, then you have to take a deep breath, not because you really can't breathe, but because the lung cannot expand fully like it used to. Fluid around the lung makes it difficult to sleep as well. When you try to lay down, the fluid actually makes it worse. Increased energy needed to breathe, so you lose weight because you're spending all your time breathing. Post-op chest wall pain is a problem sometimes because the nerve gets cut on the chest wall. It's not cancer, but it's just a nerve damage, so you feel pain in the chest even though there's no cancer. And that all does result in you sitting around not doing anything, and that's something you should avoid. Okay? Infertility, this is a problem becoming more and more common nowadays because most patients do survive a while. So many of them want to have children. So especially if you're young, under 40. Major issues for men and women. Now, sperm count goes down due to chemotherapy, due to the cancer itself, and the hormones are affected, and also surgical damage to the sexual organs. So all these things are problems, and but most of these is temporary. Although many of my patients, who are young men, we check the sperm count. Many of the sperm counts are already low even before we treat them. So it's not just the chemo. So sometimes the cancer, in fact, is stressful. Before you find out you have cancer, you're stressed, and the stress can diminish the sperm count as well. And now sometimes maybe the person with low sperm count can be with you, so that's not the issue. You can bank the sperms. So if you really want to have children, we can have them give sperms, and then we can freeze them, and we can use them again. Okay. Women is a lot more tricky. How to preserve fertility in women? We find out that the younger you are, the more chance you recover. So like we treat a lot of young breast cancer patients, and many of them we still can have children out 3 or 4 years later. However, if you're already late 30s or early 40s, the chance of being successful in relying on your body to recover is not good. So many women decide to have ovarian preservation, so they take out the eggs. But the problem with that is it takes a few months to do that. So you cannot do it on the drop of a hat. So because of that, sometimes we cannot wait. So we would give them hormone treatment during the chemo to suppress the ovarian function. So it's like you put it in hibernation. So like we cause what we call chemical menopause. So your body shuts down. We can do the same thing with men too. Okay, although it's not fun, but it can be done. And then, of course, there's also the problem of impotence. You cannot have erection, you cannot have ejaculation. Sometimes there's nerve damage. So they're not very. These are more complicated things to do, but we have ways to do that. We now have Viagra, so that helps with some of that. And the younger you are, the faster you recover. So that's true. Next slide. So sperm and egg banking, we talked about that. Hormone stimulation, we can do that. A short period of time. We use these, what they call Lupron, which is used for prostate cancer. We can use them men and women to shut down the sex organs so that they won't get affected by the chemo while we're giving it. Problem is the data on this is very limited because it's hard to do this on volunteers. Who wants to do that? And then we have to follow sperm count. Next slide. Okay. So this is a very fun slide I saw. Are you kidding me? You still can have sex after cancer? Yes, of course. You have to be kidding. Next slide. No. Okay. Okay. Okay, got it. So some of the problem are permanent, like surgery, removing the testicles or the ovaries. That's permanent. Once you remove it, you can't, obviously cannot function. So sometimes when we remove ovaries from women, we oftentimes will give them back estrogen because the amount of estrogen your body makes is less than what you'll be given. So it does not increase your risk of cancer. Pelvic radiation is a big problem for men and women because it destroys many of the nerves and the organs in that area. Chemotherapy, especially when you use a lot of drugs and the high doses. Like we know that from Hodgkin disease we can cure, but many of the men become impotent permanently because we destroy their testosterone effect and testosterone production problem. The short-term problem is during the chemo, of course, you're going to have the side effects on the hormones as well as directly on the organs. But you should get better within 6 months, and we have treatment to deal with the side effects. But the body image is a psychological problem. Not so much for men, but for women, the breast thing is a big problem. A lot of women don't want to do plastic surgery. Sometimes they do want plastic surgery, it didn't turn out so well, so these are issues. But the men, they will lose their hair. Although men sometimes look pretty good bald, so it's not so bad, but still it affects your own perception. Skin changes, sometimes the skin becomes different color after radiation. And weight loss, loss of muscle mass. If you're a big, strong guy, after chemo, sometimes you become a couple of sizes smaller. But that's appearance, right? How you perceive yourself. Next slide. So rebuilding is very important. So you have to improve muscle tone and mass. That's why you do the exercise. And you start to look at yourself in the mirror and become more proud about yourself. And then we can try to do sex hormone replacement. Sometimes, but doesn't always work, and sometimes it cannot be done. Like we cannot give testosterone in prostate cancer because it's like pouring gasoline over fire. Sex therapy. Sometimes you have to talk to your partner. You may talk to a counselor who specializes in sex therapy, and you may have different ways to induce pleasure. And you have more than one way to use that. Next slide. So the key is to share these moments. Don't do this alone. Okay? I mean, you're stuck with the spouse, you know. Your spouse is the one that's closest to you, lives with you, and knows you. So there's no need to hide anything. Okay? But it's very important to share because I think, you know, there's more to life than having sex. There's more life that you can have pleasure in life, and that's the most important thing. Next slide. Okay, so that's the end of my talk. And any questions?
我先插一下话，就是说，因为我们有那个专业的翻译哦，傅梦君是我们一个很棒的在医疗界服务的专业的翻译哦。那么他是我们的一个很重要的 volunteer， 每一个 volunteer 都很重要，然后他又有那个 special knowledge。如果待会儿他又很怕耽误大家一些时间，所以如果说呢，您刚才对于Dr. Tsai的这个 slide 或他讲的内容呢，想要更了解的话，我们等一下 Jim 会在这边，你可以特别再问他哪几张 slide， 然后你有问题这样子，好不好？对，然后
slide 可以 email 给我。
可以，我们会放在网上，我们待会儿会放在网上这样子。好，那。
所以我是插播了，临时来在业那个长治教啊，那个谢谢戴医师，那个等一等 question 呢，现在是要问当时戴的 question 呢，还是要等一下大家一起问？
我们还有另外一位讲员，我们待会后面的 Q&A 大家觉得会有没有人已经迫不及待想要先问一两个问题的？
我们有one question.
Yeah. Sure. Please just speak.
So can I speak?
Yeah. Please.
I'm a patient of multiple myeloma. And then I got the chemotherapy almost 3 years already.
Yes.
And then right now, most of the chemo failed. We just tried a new one. Last month we tried a new one. But right now, based on the doctor, based on the MRI and the PET scan, it looks like most of the pain, most of the lesion will be a little bit recovering. But it still have the new lesion comes out.
Right.
For example, in the C,
right.
in the T, in the L, So that's based on the doctor. Is that you can feel better and better, and your condition will be better. Almost 80% of recovery. So you can deduct your painkiller, the kind of the painkiller.
Right.
I don't understand.
Well, the idea is to adjust. Okay.
But when I deduct the medicine painkiller, at the very end,
then don't cut it back. Because I think your case is actually very complicated. We can talk separately because this is much more complicated. Okay. Any question about survivorship? Yes.
戴醫生，我係新嘅肺癌嘅發嘅。咁我而家想知道咧，就係話我而家係仲未做化療嘅之前，我飲食上要點樣，同埋咧有一個新嘅，好似話新嘅我新嘅藥係他嘅事件。
係啦，但係咧，你兩個問題係第一個係點樣嚟 prepare，how to prepare you for your cancer treatment. Number one is 食多啲。如果即係唔好食補嘢，但係食多啲。OK。
有咩話特別唔好食嘅？
嗱，我唔係中醫嚟嘅，所以我叫人唔使戒口嘅。即係但係要食啲嘢係新鮮嘅肉類都得，乜都得嘅，唔緊要嘅。加唔好食啲太肥嘅嘢啦嚇，就係即係正常嘅嘢。OK，但係食多啲。如果你有胃口嘅食。OK。咁第二個 question 就係 about target therapy. There's a lot of target therapy now. 即2年前都未有嘅。但係咧，你有個 target， 你先可以有嗰個 therapy。所以如果佢 test 到出嚟你有嘅咧，咁就可以應用嗰度啦。
哦。因為嗰個sample 嘅醫生就同我講嘅話咧，我要check 咗切片 check 咗知道。
係啦。
我係唔係因為 食煙，我後生有食煙。
食煙唔緊要啊，即係你而家有癌症啦，你食唔食煙 no longer issue。
我都食30年會食。
係啦係啦。
但係嗰啲。
咪你食煙同唔食煙
冇關係。
not an issue。
咁佢又話。
而家唔好食啦，係啦。
但係佢個醫生話我話，如果你食煙，即係切片之後咧，你唔食煙新藥咧，就可能就話用得差嘅。
係啦，即係啲 target therapy 話你有個 target 你先用嗰種 therapy，唔係話你想用 target 就可以用。哦，因為你冇嗰個你個癌症冇嗰種 target 就唔可以用呢啲藥。
嗰個 target 係chemo 啊。
Well, it's complicated， 但係咧就唔係 chemo 嚟嘅呢啲。
係食藥啊。
係食藥㗎。
哦，即係食藥。
Yeah。
咁即係如果化療就唔同啦。
化療就係即係regular 嘅 chemo。
咁啊，但係佢射入去。係啦。咁時間係咪要好長？
嗱，如果你個人反應得好，即係你個癌症respond 到嗰個 treatment 好，你可以打好耐㗎。好似我有個 patient 打3年，he's still in good shape，you know。打啊！有好多藥，有啲好快好輕嘅啫嘛，唔係種種 chemo 都係難嘅，有啲係難，有啲係弱，有啲舊嗰啲係多數係難受嘅，但係咧新藥嗰啲多數冇咁難。OK，
大家把那个还有问题的话就先停一下哈，这样子的话，等那个黄博士speech 完以后，大家想起来再等他，这样子的话他就可以现在可以马上跑掉。来，OK，来。我们现在就请那个。